Hello, my name's Gavin, this is Genre Books, and there will be plenty of time, some time left in 2025 to talk about what's gone on this year. But at the beginning of December, I want to talk about plans for 2026 because I've spent a lot of time thinking about them, some of which will be self-evident, some of which will be led by the returning calendar of the BookTube community. But there are some other things that I will be returning to, some of my own little projects, and an announcement today, proper announcement of my main project for 2026. But let's look at the BookTube events first. Looking through the BookTube almanac, I can see that there are plenty of returning events and events that I hope will be returning. But in January, I think there is a new event from Talia Nerds Out and Militia's Meanderings are looking at doing an event on the public domain. And I love the public domain, so I will be talking about not only Project Gutenberg, not only the Internet Archive, but some of the other places where I might be able to get some material in what I'm hoping will be a low spend year for books. In February, Gareth from Books, Songs and Other Magic is bringing back fantasy in February, and I won't be reading as many fantasy books as I did February 2025, purely because I don't have time, also because I'm not struggling in 2026 to finish a Read What Your Own challenge. I will be joining him in, I don't know if this is a buddy read or going to expand to a group read, but Mythico Wood by Robert Holdstock. As with lots of fantasy books published in the last 15 to 20 years, this has an introduction by Neil Gaiman, which I don't think we're going to be seeing as many of in the future. But this is in the Gallant's Fantasy Masterworks range. There are plenty of other editions of this book available. It's a famous fantasy novel that I unaccountably haven't got round to, but I have it on my shelves, so we'll enjoy that, hopefully. Also, in February, there is usually the Garb August Lost Weekend. That's usually occurred around the middle of February. I have an idea which I will see if I can bring to fruition for that. Also, an event that ran last year, I don't know if it's going to be running again this year. If it does, that idea would also count for this. Fantastic February. That was run by Roy from Roy Reads Anything, Duncan from Back Away from the Donkey, and Annie from Obscure Book Adventures. In March 2026, I'm guessing March Mystery Madness will be returning, and I have a couple of books I definitely want to read for March Mystery Madness, and I have a series of books following up from my Marple Cinematic Universe. I will be reading some more Agatha Christie, this time focusing on Tommy and Tuppence rather than Miss Marple herself. So I will be reading some Tommy and Tuppence books and looking at screen adaptations of that detective pairing. In April, we may possibly see the return of Spring into Adventure, and I've got plenty of adventure choices on these shelves if that event does return. Spring into Adventure usually straddles both April and May. May has a couple of other events. First, a group read with Greg from Ghost Readers in the Sky and others on a follow-up to November's reading of Sir Walter Scott's Ivanhoe. We're going to be looking at Rob Roy. May, of course, is also Horror Mayhem, and I'm sure I'll find something to read regarding that. See, we're whizzing through the year already. Already June 2026. June, of course, is June on a Range. That's got to be coming back. I've plenty of Zane Grey to read. I've got the next book in the Sackett series by Louis L'Amour to read. I've got I managed to download True Grit, so I will finally be reading that. That's one that I've heard a lot of fulsome praise from a number of quarters, so I want to read what I believe is a fairly short book there. Also, another couple of Piccadilly Cowboys I've picked up recently. The first two books in the Adam Steele series, so at least I'll be reading one, possibly both of those. So plenty of Western action for June. June is also the beginning of the Summer of Sport, if that event is coming back. I don't have a huge amount planned for that yet, but I did manage to pick this up at a charity shop for not very much money at all. One of my favourite Tour de France cyclists, Jens Vogt, his autobiography, Shut Up Legs. That's one of his catchphrases. He is a proper character, so I'll be looking forward to that one. July, if it returns, is Rocket Summer, which is an event I've been lucky enough to co-host for the last couple of years, where the object is to read classic science fiction. I have an idea of how to approach it this year, which I hope will come to fruition. July is also Jane Austen July, and I first took part in Jane Austen July just this year, and read my first Jane Austen since the age of about 17, when I read Mansfield Park and didn't enjoy it. This year I read Pride and Prejudice and Persuasion, enjoyed them both a lot, so I will be picking at least one or two of her works this year round. August is, of course, Garb August, and believe me, I've got plenty of trash on my shelves still. September, we're a little bit more refined. We have Shake-Tember, and we have Framed in September. We also have Cimmerian September and Shorty September, and I'll see if I can do something for both of those. But for Framed in September, I will be dipping back again into the world of the surrealists. And for Shake-Tember, well, in the first year I did Shake-Tember, I read all of the histories. This year, for Shake-Tember, I read all of the problem plays. I'm upping the game a little bit, and for 2026 I'm going to try to read all of the comedies. And straight into October after that, and if the comedies of Shakespeare haven't worn me out, October absolutely will do. There are two big old events: Occult Detective October, which, leading up to Halloween gives you your spooky quotient, and Victober, where there's enough spooky stuff going on if you want, and plenty else besides. I've already got a couple of ideas for things I want to talk about in Victober. Whether they'll relate to any of the prompts, who knows. And I'm planning in November and December to do what I've done this November and December, and be very, very light on the BookTube events, just to catch up with some reading. And I'll have plenty to catch up on. There are continuing BookTube projects, one of which I'm sort of running with James at Quaint and Curious Volumes. Our BookTube's longest buddy read of the 1001 Nights will continue at least partway into the year. Also, there is an event I will be dipping into, Roy from Roy Reads Anything's reading club of Forgotten Victorians, that has actually started a month early. This month I'm about at this point of recording, 3 chapters into Under Two Flags by Ouida. So this is the beginning of the Ouidathon. There are books I have not read on that list. There's a couple of months where I have read them, and I won't be participating, but for most of the months, the titles selected are very interesting. But on top of that, I have my own continuing returning BookTube events. These are multi-year events, I have realised. I just don't have the time to catch up with all of them, but my enthusiasm for each of them separately is undimmed and collectively almost overwhelming. But Planet Stories, I'm 11 issues into Planet Stories, so I have number 12 to do, coming up hopefully soon. I am 8 episodes and 13 books into 50 Zanes of Grey, or I will be by the end of tomorrow. I have already recorded book number 13, so I will be continuing my trawl through Zane Grey's works. I'll be returning because I've neglected it a little bit, but I've been doing some reading on the down low for Project Rabbit Hole, and something which is, happily being quite popular this year that I've done, the List of Lost Penguins. I will find some way for the penguins to return. I've just got to get the hook that I need. And finally, one that has got away from me a little bit this year, but I will be returning to because I still find it very interesting, Jane Austen's horrid novels, those gothic works, most of which fell quite heavily out of print. A little reassessment of things that inspired the gothic-y side of Jane Austen, by which I mean probably just Northanger Abbey. But all of these BookTube events, ongoing reading groups, returning projects, my own personal projects, will be taking second billing to my main focus for 2026, and getting back onto that genre train a little bit. From April next year, I will be starting a series which is hopefully going to have 2 episodes a week, detailing 100 years of science fiction, sci-fi century. It takes rather an arbitrary point to decide what 100 years of science fiction is. This is, of course, a very debatable point, but I'm just choosing the 100th anniversary of the first issue of Amazing Stories, the science fiction, the first proper science fiction pulp magazine. And I'll be reading a book for every year from 1926 to 2026. I have already started. I've got a couple of episodes in the can, as they say, already. So expect varying levels of hair length on a weekly basis, if nothing else. This will not be a definitive list of the greatest ever science fiction classics ever, because no, I can't do that. I don't think those things are ever more than a pretext for some big old arguments. This is just a representative, I'm hoping, slice of what science fiction came out each year in that century. I won't have picked all the books I would have liked to. I'm limiting myself to one for each author. And there are certain years where multiple absolute stone cold classics came out, and I can pick only one or sometimes none of them. It will, if nothing else, dispel or confirm my feeling about modern science fiction, which is that, things used to be a little bit better. I absolutely have a preference for the old classic science fiction. I am probably being too dismissive of new stuff that is coming out. By the end of the event, we'll see. This event is probably going to stretch into 2027. This event will not just be me talking about a book, although some episodes will just be me talking about a book. One of the reasons I'm announcing this now is that I want to do a number of buddy reads. I've spoken to some booktubers already, but I am open to buddy reading books, which I will list below. If you want to, let me know. Read a book, we'll get together, we'll discuss it, and that is the episode for that year. If I can pull this one off, I'm going to be very happy. If I can get it done in a year, I will be happier still. I am very cognizant that as the years go on, books get longer. And as the year go on, I will get more and more fatigued by this event. But a century of sci-fi is definitely something to celebrate. I won't bore on about the books that I want to read in detail. I'll just leave you with a little video montage of all of them. And until next time, bye.